The Covenant were a powerful, interstellar collection of alien races, which decimated humanity in a brutal war, resulting in the death of billions of humans and the near extinction of the species. The Covenant's main advantages were their sheer numbers and their technological advancement compared to 26th century humanity. The CCS Class Cruiser was a near 2-kilometer long ship, mid-sized by Covenant standards, but still very advanced and powerful. It formed the backbone of the alien fleet and is the star of today's video. The CCS will be challenging modern-day Earth. Unlike a prior video where I put the Imperial Star Destroyer against the US military, there will be no limits placed on today's matchup. That means no time limit, no limit on what the Covenant can do, nothing. We will, however, assume that the world is united against the enemy, recognizes its danger, and is freely moving military resources. The Covenant win condition will be the surrender of humanity, which for Earth will be a last resort, or the killing of at least 1/3 the human race. Let's look at the specs of the CCS. It was 1.7 kilometers long, 800 meters wide, and powered by a pair of advanced fusion reactors. Its most powerful weapon was the Plasma Lance, a powerful, long-range energy weapon used to attack capital ships. Paired with that is a dedicated excavation beam. However, both energy projectors could be used for glassing operations. Secondary weapons include 16 torpedo launchers, which are ship-to-ship weapons effective at long range, 50 pulse laser turrets, point defense weapons, which fire at the speed of light, and 42 plasma cannons, shorter range anti-capital ship weapons that can also be used to attack targets on the ground. These are generally spread across the ship evenly. Aside from serving as a frontline battleship, the CCS was also excellent at carrying and deploying assets, both for space campaigns and ground invasions. The typical CCS carried around 200 ground vehicles of various size, 80 fighters, and a complement of dropships and insertion pods. Additionally, thousands of Covenant warriors would be stationed on the ship. Covenant warships have impressive durability and shielding. A CCS could survive smaller UNSC MAC rounds and dozens of torpedoes before its shield dropped. Given the Covenant's general scientific advancement, the ship would also have been fitted with top-of-the-line computing and sensor technology. So, how does the battle play out? Well, let's look at the Covenant's option here. First of all, one cruiser is sadly, for them at least, not enough to glass Earth. According to Halo Reach, a single CCS can glass an acre of land in 17 seconds of continuous fire, while deep ocean takes much longer. The United States alone has 2 billion acres of land. Manhattan is about 14.5 thousand acres, meaning it would take the cruiser about 2.5 days of uninterrupted fire to destroy the island. And for the record, although 8 million people live in New York City proper, only about 1 million or 1.5 million of those live in Manhattan. So that gives you a good idea of density and the time that it would take to kill upwards of 1 billion people. A single CCS has neither the energy or the time to actually destroy the needed populations from orbit, so that strategy will not work out. I also don't think that glassing from a single cruiser will be enough to force humanity to surrender, but I'll talk more about that later. Nonetheless, bombardments can still be extremely effective from a tactical standpoint, especially when in orbit. The energy projectors can precisely target and eliminate hostiles or installations, while the secondary weapons of the ship, including the cannons and torpedoes, are effective against ground or air targets. The torpedoes especially would be useful at clearing the way for the cruiser or destroying enemies from extremely long range. I can see the CCS analyzing human communication, then moving over capital cities and eliminating governments or major populations. However, the main issue the Covenant faces, at least in atmosphere, is scope of forces. Practically, landing troops will not be effective. With only a few thousand ground warriors and the entire Earth against the aliens, there's just too much of a numbers disadvantage. Even if the Covenant try to, for example, eliminate key world leaders, they just don't have enough troops. This is the entire Earth we're talking about here, with many developed countries, several quasi-superpowers, and the United States as a full superpower. Obviously, from a technological standpoint, a modern military could not stand up to the UNSC sea, but besides for Spartans and some of the more rare technology, the difference isn't exponential. So humanity will be taking losses, but they can destroy the Covenant's ground forces. In atmosphere, the cruiser will also come under heavy fire from conventional ground-based and air-based weapons, and, after a time, nuclear missiles. The CCS has exceptional weapons which could easily counter modern aircraft or supporting ground hardware, especially the long-range torpedoes and point defense cannons. The shields are also incredibly powerful, but with unified world governments focused on a single target, I believe that the world has enough firepower to eventually overwhelm the ship. That's especially the case if humanity brought out their nuclear weapons, though the effects of that on the planet itself would obviously be catastrophic. In my opinion, the Covenant of course could, and likely would, stick to space. There, we'd have no way of effectively attacking the CCS. Humanity has developed ASATs, or anti-satellite weapons, but I don't think they're advanced enough to hit a mobile vessel armed with light-speed point defense cannons. This brings us to a difficult place, because I don't think humanity can destroy the cruiser, but it's also my opinion that the CCS doesn't have enough firepower or enough energy to significantly glass the planet. If we are talking about a single country like the US, perhaps the cruiser could force the government and the populace into submission by targeting key infrastructure, places of power, and population centers, but with one ship against a whole world, such a response isn't really possible. So as I said, a weird position where no side can conventionally defeat the other. So that's sort of a tie, I guess, but let's further discuss things. I think humanity actually has a slight edge, mostly because they can actually replace their resources, even while being attacked by the CCS from space, and the Earth should be able to survive indefinitely. The Covenant, on the other hand, are naturally limited in their ship due to both energy and food concerns. Unfortunately, we have no idea what kind of consumables a CCS carries, but I think it likely that they'd have at least a year's worth of food. By the way, assuming they fully glassed the planet for a year, that would be about 2 million acres destroyed. That is pretty impressive, but wouldn't even cover Connecticut, the third smallest state. More problematically, I think, is energy concerns. We do know that reactors on Covenant cruisers are not solar-based and do need to be refilled. Typically, of the 2 reactors on the CCS, the larger one is dedicated to the torpedoes and main excavation beam, while the second powers the rest of the ship, including the energy lance, other weapons, and life support. CCSs are not meant for large-scale glassing operations. Dedicated ships like the CPV destroyer or larger cruisers usually do the bulk of that work, at least on a ship-by-ship basis. I don't think it's likely that from a maintenance or energy standpoint that the main excavation beams could be fired for more than perhaps a couple of days, and the damage there would be minimal. After that, it's pretty much a waiting game. Again, you can't really say that the Earth wins, it's more like the CCS loses. It's just not powerful enough to take on something the size of Earth. The only strategy that I can see working is if the CCS was able to somehow target one of the Earth's quote-unquote weak points. Perhaps it could melt the planet's ice caps or somehow mess with a fault line. But really, I just don't think the cruiser has enough power to win in that way. That is, of course, just my opinion. I would love to hear what you think. Does the Covenant have enough power in a single cruiser to defeat modern Earth? Or am I missing something? And does Earth somehow have the resources to destroy even a cruiser in orbit? Finally, swap out the CCS with the CSO supercarrier, a much larger vessel, and how do you think the result changes? Let me know all of that below and anything else. Today's video was brought to you by Audible. Want to support the channel while also getting a free Star Wars, Halo, or audiobook of any other type? Go to audibletrial.com/Eckhart'sLadder. Again, every single download that you guys do for free puts money into my pocket and allows me to make videos like this. Again, the link is audibletrial.com/Eckhart'sLadder. I'll put it down in the description and in a pinned comment. I hope you guys enjoyed. Make sure to subscribe for more, and until next time, may the Force be with you.